My friends and my family, this is Trevor Chapman, modern day man, entrepreneur, achiever, purveyor of the good life, student of life, marketer. After over 10 years in business, tens of millions of dollars, I've learned this one thing. There's too much noise. It takes tactics and strategy. You can't buy it, you earn it through experience. Failure after failure hones the craft. You must become a warrior. It's time to run. The experience you can't buy. You had to have earned it. It's my turn to give back and contribute. I share all of my lessons from 7 to 8 and from 8 to 9 figures. We'll see if it goes from 9 to 10, but I'm gonna give it all to you. Consistency, persistence, dedication, vision, time, discipline, work. I'm gonna give it all to you so that you learn from where I failed and you learn from my experience. My brothers, this is your daily fuel. Hello, my friends. This is Trevor Chapman. I'm so excited to be with you today. It's been an excellent day, as every day is. It has not been easy. The day hasn't gone without its hiccups. But when I consider where I was 10 years ago, when I consider where I was 20 years ago as a 13-year-old boy, or even 30 years ago as a 3-year-old, what I've been able to achieve in my life, I quote, wasn't supposed to be able to do. And it's not, I was born into the opposite of privilege. I was born into underprivilege. I don't have some amazing degree or anything like that. And my message to you is that if I can do it, I know that you can do it. Now, I'm going to give you some real actionable marketing tips. So if you guys are business owners or you're marketers, entrepreneurs that need these next few tips I'm going to give you, you're absolutely going to love. Before I do that, though, if you're listening to this podcast on the very day that it came out, I've got an exciting news point for you. For the third time ever in its entire history, we are opening up the Academy of Arbitrage tomorrow, Friday. I think that's November the 17th. Let me make sure. Yep, that's right. There's going to be a webinar at 6 p.m. If you want to take a look at that, you can go to academyofarbitrage.com/webinar. Academy of Arbitrage, ARBITRAGE.com/webinar. This is the reason why Russell Brunson had me be secret, literally I'm secret number 3 on his highest performing webinar. I come from nowhere near this space, brick and mortar, 13 years, hardcore sales, door to door. I come with a perspective that nobody else in digital marketing or digital strategy has, which is why I've been able to really shortcut the process. What takes most people in entrepreneurship in general 11.6 years to have their first $1 million year. Online marketing broke $1 million in my first 90 days, 2 million 180 days later, 8 figures 11 months later. And I'm going to be sharing those secrets and tips with you. This is the first time I've actually talked about this. So this isn't an ad. This is just for those people who are listening that want to know more about me, who I am, what we have to do. There's a chance you're listening to it afterwards, and if so, you can just jump over to trevorchapman.com. All right, enough about that, even though it's incredible. Let me give you some real amazing stuff. Before I talk about the marketing tips, I'm standing in my little studio here, and I've got all kinds of ancient things in here. I'm a collector, from mammoth teeth to a cobblestone from the very first road out of Rome into France. Well, one of the things I've got hanging on my wall that's framed is an original contract from 1769. It has 6 witness signatures, 6 different stamps, where they would melt wax and then stamp it with their family name. And then on the back of it, it's got a signature between the person that is offering the service and the person that is paying. This is a contract for an indentured servant. This is a real contract for an indentured servant that came across. And the man that paid his rite of passage, this man then worked for him for 15 years. I keep this down here because often I will work here. And it carries, like most things, no matter how thin you slice it, there's always two sides. No matter how many times you flip the coin, it can land on either side. This carries multiple dimensions for me. Number one, if I'm not feeling it, I look up at that and I realize, number one, how grateful I am that I don't live the life of an indentured servant. Number two, how grateful I am for my progenitors that did live the life of an indentured servant so that their family, which was immediate, and then generations later would live a life of freedom, which I am grateful beyond gratitude for that. It reminds me also that if I don't keep jamming, I will eventually be another person's indentured servant, another man's man, work for somebody else. On the flip side, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, if I'm still down here, I look over at that and I realize that my kids are already asleep, that I've become my own indentured servant. I found it highly useful to attempt to see all sides of every point and object, principle. It's helped me incredibly. Now, having talked about that contract for this indentured servant, for this man who gave 15 years of his life for a dream, let me talk about a few things that might help you. Marketing is this enigma. Oftentimes you hear me talk about selling at perceived value. My thesis online, for those of you that haven't heard it, and I'll be brief, everyone engages in query-based marketing. They wait for someone to search for something that they want on Amazon or eBay or Google. Toothbrushes, for instance. I search on Amazon. I have 12 toothbrushes shown. They show me the most popular items, the ones that sell the most. And what are they? The cheapest and the highest quality. That's a race to the bottom for every vendor. Anytime you engage in query-based marketing, you engage in a race to the bottom. You can't sell $1 or trade $1 of marketing for a $1,000 return. Oftentimes you do what companies like Solar City have done, trade $1 for 50 cents. They spent $3 billion and made $1.5 billion. That's what happens when you're a behemoth and Elon Musk is behind you. But as a small business owner, you don't have the luxury of that. Neither do I. Instead, you need to sell at perceived value, and you do that through disruptive marketing while they're on their phone, in the privacy of their own home, or while they're walking through the mall or driving and they see a billboard or a television commercial. No one's really done this exceptionally well online. That's where I come in. I've done this, in a sense, more so than anybody else has and more successful. And my thesis is this, is that when you disrupt them effectively, they will then buy any product that they have interest in at any rate that is congruent with the perceived value that you effectively illustrated. Now let's talk about effectively illustrating perceived value. What are some tips, tricks, hacks, etc.? Obviously the product or service has to be good, but beyond that, let's say that you're selling 2 knives. Both of them look very similar. You actually only have 1 knife, right? But you put an image of 2 knives. The one that you're selling, you post at $112. Then you post one that looks identical to it. It's just, signature series. And that one's not 112. That one's 147. Now this is one image, both knives. They look identical. What you've just done is you've taken the $112 barrier, buying a knife on a whim for $112. And you've made it a steal for them. The perceived value is there. Instead of saying, I wish it was $99, they say, whoa, the signature series, which is exactly the same, it just has someone's initials in it, is $147. You see this all the time. They make products bearable in comparison. Anytime you're able to compare, you actually are able to inflate and justify the perceived value. How are you able to do that? online. Facebook ads, display networks, email marketing, whole number of ways. One of my favorite things is to add in value adds. Things that may not necessarily... Okay, look, shampoo companies do this all the time. I go in and my wife's got shampoo in there, and it's just regular shampoo, but you know what it says on it? Paris. Paris. It says Paris. Now, that means nothing. The company isn't in Paris. They're not in New York. It's some company in Oklahoma. But by writing Paris in gold font, they've just increased the perceived value, because in our minds, as Americans, as consumers, Paris has value. They add other things that really mean nothing. BioCare, #1 recommended by Hollywood stylists. Things that like literally have no bearing, that you can't really even justify, but in our minds it's justified. Paris? What? Hollywood recommends this? This is something I need to get. The other thing that often they do is they do the same thing with genders, my friend. They take a gender, for instance, razors, same razor. I mean, even if there's not more blades on the men's or women's, same razor. Go to Walmart and take a look at this. One's pink, one is blue. The men's razors sell for less because men, I assume, don't use the stick razors as often, right? And they sell the women's for more because women are buying it more constantly. Same product, different color. Gender. They simply threw the gender in. When you start to notice how the marketing around you works, you're so effectively able to actually increase your own marketing. It's funny, people go to school and they study marketing, and then they come out and they, go get a job for $15 an hour somewhere, writing copy. And it's just like, we live in the most consumer-centric society ever. The marketing is around us, and guess what? Guess what's only around us? The successful marketing. Marketing that is unsuccessful gets stopped. If you'll watch, if you'll pay attention, you'll see that this marketing is incredible. And if you'll look at it from different perspectives, how I spoke about with that indentured servant contract, you too should be able to find how it pertains to you, your marketing, your company, your division, and improve the efficacy of what you're doing. Remember, well, I wasn't jumping around and full of passion today. If you will comprehend that disruptive-based marketing allows you to sell at perceived value, you can double, triple, and quadruple your revenue overnight without any added product sales. You've got this. You can do it. If I can, you can. If he can, I can. And that's the attitude. All my love and all my respect. Don't be an indentured servant. Until tomorrow. Trevor out.